The super wealthy manage their millions with just 4 numbers. And when these numbers are brought into balance, amazing things can happen, because these numbers control every part of your financial destiny. So if you're not tracking these numbers, it's likely your finances are headed towards disaster, or at the very least, are treading water. Chances are, you're in urgent need of a solution. But unlike other finance videos that tell you to cut back on everything and live like a monk for a year, I'm just going to give you these numbers and show you how to use them. Because once you get your head around these numbers, you'll be able to crush your finances and unlock a level of financial clarity and confidence you never thought possible. So if this is the kind of thing that interests you, don't wait. Press that like and subscribe button now. The first number the super wealthy track is the most critical, because it's the foundation upon which everything else depends. And if you want to grow your wealth, there is no avoiding it. You must master this number. Most of us spend about 70% of our income on the must-haves: our homes, food, travel, and bills. Basically, all the things you have to pay for each month, what the economists call our fixed costs. And this is the first number the super wealthy track. How much of their income goes to fixed costs? Because if it's too high, their whole financial world collapses. But get it right, and the rest is details. A good rule of thumb is that your fixed cost should be no more than 60% of your income, ideally 50%, because this gives enough room for the other numbers in the list to have an impact. So if you're one of those sitting at 70%, well, you're way off track. But when calculating your fixed costs, be careful, because even if you think you've captured them all, you're probably wrong, because hidden costs have a habit of appearing out of nowhere, like unexpected car repairs, annual subscriptions, emergency dental work, and even a broken fridge. To account for these hidden costs, add another 15% to your fixed cost calculations. So to calculate your number, take your fixed costs, add the 15%, and divide it by your take-home pay. If it's less than 60%, you're on track. You're managing your financial base about as well as the average millionaire. But if it's over that, your fixed costs are too high, and you will need to make adjustments. Look first at the most expensive things, like where you live and where you drive. But how can you tell if you're paying too much for your home or car? Because many people are. Take housing. Up to 40% of American homeowners are struggling to meet their monthly payments. For people who rent, that number's 50%. And it's because they're getting swamped by hidden fees. Beyond the monthly mortgage or the rent, there's also insurance, tax, repairs, maintenance, and service charges. All the things that get forgotten about when budgeting for a home. The same principle applies to cars. Many people look at a new car and think they can easily afford a $400 monthly payment. But when you factor in fuel, insurance, maintenance, and depreciation, that $400 suddenly becomes $700 or $800. Given that housing and cars are probably the two biggest things you'll ever buy, it's critical to get an accurate view of their true cost. So how can you tell if you're paying too much? Luckily, there are guidelines you can follow. It's recommended, for example, that your monthly housing cost should be no more than 28% of your gross income. So if you're on $30,000 a year, you should not be paying more than $700 a month. Here's a list of 7 income bands and how much monthly payments you can afford at each. For your car, the maximum you should pay is no more than 35% of your gross annual income, or 25% if you want to be more conservative. Here's the numbers for different income bands for cars. If you can get these right, you should be able to get under the 60% target. You now have the headroom needed to start tracking the next number. You probably have a memory of a wise adult in your life, drilling into you the importance of saving. And yet, many of us struggle to prioritize it. The super wealthy, on the other hand, make it an absolute priority by tracking their savings rate religiously. They do this for 2 reasons. First, because they can, because their fixed costs are contained, giving them the headroom to save. Second, they're saving with a purpose, usually to buy assets or experiences. So if you want to be an effective saver, you need a savings rate target, and you need to be saving for a reason. A good target is 5 to 10% of your income. But as for your reason, well, that's for you to decide. It could be a vacation, an experience, or maybe just a new pair of shoes. Whatever it is, having a target savings rate and a compelling reason to save will help you be a much more effective saver. But that's not yet the complete picture. Saving effectively requires one other critical component: commitment. Because saving takes time. It means putting money away every month for a distant future instead of spending it in the moment. It's hard and takes serious motivation and commitment. The super rich know this too, which is why they take it out of their hands completely and make the whole process automatic. Because they know they can't rely on motivation. It's too fickle in the face of immediate gratification. You need to understand that too. Instead, set up an automatic transfer each month and move 5 to 10% of your paycheck to your savings account. This makes saving frictionless. It also requires zero motivation and zero commitment beyond setting it up in the first place. The next number the super wealthy track is often the main driver of their wealth. It's why they seem to be riding a financial escalator straight to the top, while we're stuck in the 9 to 5 rise and grind. And that number is their long-term investment rate. You might think that this is where you part company from the super wealthy because you just don't have the money to invest, which is why it's so important to have your fixed costs under control. With that in place, you should have the headroom to target a 10% long-term investment rate. You might be close to that already, because this number includes your 401k or company pension if you're in the UK. By tracking a long-term investment target, you're putting your money to work for you. And it's where you start to tap into the phenomenon the super wealthy exploit all the time: the power of compounding. To show you its power, take a look at this example. Imagine two people, Bill and Bob. Bob is on the ball, Bill not so much. Bob starts investing at age 25 and puts away $200 each month for 10 years, then stops. By age 65, Bob's total investment of $24K has grown to $197,000 on an average 6% return. Bill also puts away $200 a month but doesn't start until he's 40, but he does do it for 20 years instead of 10 years. By age 65, even though he's invested $48,000 compared to Bob's $24,000, Bill's investment has grown to only $124,000, $73,000 less than Bob's. The lesson is, the earlier you start, the bigger the gains. Long-term investments are typically going to take from 10 to 25 years to really get the benefit of compounding. But if you still don't think you have enough money to invest, then you probably need to look at the next number, because it's the easiest number to get wrong. The final number the super wealthy track is their guilt-free spending rate. It's where the fun begins. It's the trip to Monaco for the Formula One, lunch at 11 Madison Park, the private jet for a weekend getaway. Their spending might be on a different level to ours, but they still track it as a priority, and so should you. You should try to keep this number under 30% of your monthly income. This might sound like a lot, but if you're not careful, it's all too easy for this number to become 50 or 60%. We can all get carried away when eating out, drinking, and just enjoying ourselves because we're having too much fun to pay attention to what's going on. So if there was ever a place in your finances that needs a bit of rigor, it's here. And if you're over target, look at the big hitters. Cut back on eating out, switch the cab ride home for the bus, stop buying clothes you don't need. But if you've ever wondered how your guilt-free spending compares to that of the super wealthy, then you're ready to learn about the 7 levels of wealth.